Hey guys, this is Bharat and welcome to Bharat's Kitchen with how to make chiffon cake or basic sponge cake. Now, I know that you've been asking me for a cake recipe from a long time, but first let's see some history about the chiffon cake. Now, chiffon cake was actually invented by Harry Baker in 1927. After a lot of trials, he came up with a recipe which he kept secret for about 20 years. And then he sold the recipe. And the recipe was provided by Betty Crocker, and his secret ingredient was oil. Now, there is definitely more to a cake than just replacing butter with oil. You need to use cake flour to give that lightness. But we'll discuss more about cake flour in my other cake recipes. For now, let's begin with it. So first, in a separate bowl, I'm gonna take some all-purpose flour or maida. But if you get your hands on cake flour, then definitely use it. And make sure you sift the flour. Then I'm gonna make my weighing scale 0 and sift some baking powder. Now I'm using a high quality baking powder here, which is made up of diphosphates, also known as sodium acid pyrophosphate. You can use any baking powder here, but make sure your baking powder doesn't contain sodium aluminum sulfate or any form of aluminum in it. Otherwise, it'll make the cake a little dry as soon as it cools down. Therefore, I'm using baking powder which contains diphosphate, and I'll explain more about it on my website. Last, in my dry mix, I'm gonna add some cornstarch, and if you're using cake flour here, then don't add cornstarch. Alright, now we need to separate the egg whites from the yolk, and since there's no butter in this recipe, to provide stability and lift to the cake, you need to make stiff peaks with the egg whites. So just separate the egg whites and the yolks and make sure there aren't any yolks in the egg whites. And that is why I'm using 3 cups here. One for the egg whites, one for the egg yolks, and in the third one, I'm gonna separate the eggs. Now make sure you sift the sugar as well, as you don't want the big sugar crystals. So you're gonna need about 80 grams of sugar for the yolks and about 45 grams of sugar for the egg whites. And if you really want good results while making cakes, then be precise and use a weighing scale. Okay, so first we're gonna beat the egg whites till stiff peaks. So take some insurance and add some cream of tartar. And if you don't have this, so you know you'll get all the alternatives on my website, so don't worry. Now just beat the egg whites with your mixer, and if you don't have one, you can use your hands and get sleepless, painful nights, but it's up to you. At this point, add the 45 grams of sugar and now beat it till stiff peaks. And then you'll have this. Like Weebles, stiff peaks wobble, but they don't fall down. Alright, time for the second preparation. So in a bowl, I'm gonna take some egg yolks and the 80 grams of sugar and beat them till the ribbon stage. You know, till you can create the figure 8. And when you achieve this, add the vegetable oil, not olive oil, just refined oil. Also add some water, some vanilla concentrate. You can use vanilla essence as well, and just mix everything together until well combined. Now gradually add our flour mix in 3 parts. So add part 1 and combine. Add part 2 and combine. Add part 3 and again combine. Same I'm gonna do with my stiff egg whites. Divide them into 3 parts and be very gentle with the egg whites. So add the part 1 and well combine. Add the part 2 and now gently fold because you don't want to lose that air. So therefore, make sure you don't overdo it. Finally, add the part 3 and again gently fold. That's it, our cake mix is ready. Okay, time to prepare our baking pan. Also, at this point of time, preheat your oven at 160 degrees centigrade and let it heat for about 20 minutes. So apply your regular butter properly on the baking pan, and at the bottom I'm gonna add some butter paper. Add some all-purpose flour so the cake has something to latch on and rise. And make sure you remove the excess flour. Pour in the cake mix and tap to settle the mix and remove those big bubbles. That's it. Just bake the cake at 160 degrees centigrade for about 35 to 40 minutes. Now you can definitely check your cake is cooked or not with a toothpick. If the toothpick comes out clean, that means your cake is cooked. Now make sure you let the cake rest for ample amount of time and then just run a knife through the edges so that the cake can easily come out. So there you are guys, my first cake video, chiffon cake, a basic sponge cake. And as always, you'll find all the list of ingredients and their measurements on my website. I hope you really like this recipe, so give this a thumbs up. Until then, I'll see you all next time.